All right. So sometimes you have to stop arguing because you lose by just continuing it.
You have to have the last word.
If you make a really good point and you like boom, and then they give like a weak ass response, it's better. It can be stronger to ignore them.
No, I mean I agree. I was being. I've already. I
thought about this so much.
Well, no, and it's contextual, you know, because we're talking about battling trolls on the internet and becoming trolls. If you're ever commenting and somebody randomly trolls you, it may have been me. And it's just because you come off as
it
pretentious.
May have been. It probably wasn't. I mean, statistically.
Hey, this is plausible deniability.
Right. All right, but it might have been.
Yeah, but real quick, we'll say, and we'll get back to this. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We did it. We're calling it audible, right?
Is that
we're going to do C.S. Lewis, but it was getting boring.
Yeah.
So we're
going
to read the
CS.
We're doing the Bitcoin white paper today.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, isn't exactly exciting.
It's kind of interesting, though. It was. I was surprised by how
I think
short
I'm going
it
to
was.
have a lot of questions for you. I've read it before, and I've read it. I've read it a few times, and every time I've read it, there's some aspects of it that I just don't. I think I don't have the knowledge of cryptography, or math, or programming to understand in its entirety.
You're going to ask about the binary distribution, aren't you?
That wasn't my first question.
Okay. Well, yeah, but anyway, trolls and stuff. Yeah, I agree, but yeah, it's just funny. If you're trolling in a funny way, I think having the last word is beneficial. If you're trying to make a point, then yeah, I think it's good to walk away.
I guess I don't troll very often.
You don't. You really need to work on that. If you're going to swim in the Reddit waters, you need to learn the art of the troll.
Right. Man, probably I'm getting trolled a lot and not realizing it.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yes. But that's, it's all good. We all do.
Do we?
Well, I guess some of us less than others.
Right. Yeah. But I accept it.
Yeah.
I just I just go straight ahead assuming that they're going to troll me. That's fine.
Yeah, you posted on Reddit yesterday to talk about last week's episode about, morality and justice.
This was justice,
yeah. But it's having to do with morality. Justice and morality, I think, are related.
I would say it was an interesting round so far.
It was. It wasn't like... Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was trying really hard this time to kind of hold people to the implications of their beliefs to see what they said, because I don't think I did that as much last week. But framing this question about justice, people seem to bring up slavery as an example on their own a lot, which is interesting because we talked about that last week. And it seems to be sort of the common thought that people have about, is slavery right or is slavery wrong? And what I would say is, I don't know the exact percentage, but a sort of shocking percentage of the audience or of the respondents made the argument that essentially justice is sort of like a man-made fiction. There is no such thing as sort of cosmic justice or God-derived justice or anything like that, and that it has to do sort of with either individuals or society as a whole, things like that. And then for some of them, I'd ask them questions like, so would you then agree with the statement that slavery used to be right and now it's wrong? And so it's like slavery was just and it is currently unjust. And it might become just again.
What did they say to that question? Yeah, I saw that one person who was just very they were like, I've written about this a lot. And then they linked something and then they were just, to your benefit is they were just very outright with what they thought. But yeah, they basically were, you asked them based off of, because they were going off about majority or whatever consensus, I guess. Is that what their point was? Consensus
I'm
morality?
not sure which one you're talking about.
It was the one where you asked them basically if it would be just to kill 30 people.
Oh, to kill everybody over the age of 30.
Everybody that is above 30 or something
Yes.
like that. Yeah.
So this person's conception of justice was based on a Webster's dictionary definition of the word justice. Whatever.
Hey,
I mean,
it's all
like,
good.
let them make their own case. That justice is an impartial, fair treatment, and then fair on Webster's dictionary meant a non-self-serving, equally applied act or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so what they were saying is that justice is that. It is an equal application that is unbiased of something. And so then I said, if there was a government that equally applied to everybody without prejudice, and they did it perfectly, everybody in the society over 30 would be killed, and they did it sort of uniformly and equally, would that be just? And he said yes. And this is where it starts to feel weird, because my next thing, and I don't really need to get that far into it, but if I were actually having a conversation with somebody like this, my next thing is that actually the world? What world do you want to live in? Do you like that? And not that you liking something means it is or isn't just, but what is your perspective on that? And then, like, are you anti-justice? Do you think justice is bad? Do you think that there's a different thing we should be striving for? If justice is so, like, malleable and can be anything, is it even worth talking about? Is it meaningful?
Well, yeah, and it's funny because I did see a lot of people comment on your post being like, well, first off, just being like,
I'm a moron. I'm so stupid. I know. I haven't read a single thing. I don't know anything. I haven't read any philosophy or history. I'm completely ignorant to everything.
And you got some, like, Latin high school teacher commenting on one of your posts about how, if you're going to talk about anything, you have to start from the beginning. And I mean, granted, their point was it was the history of ideas, but it was like,
Oh, that one? Was he a high school English teacher? Because I was going to
Latin, and I don't know if they at some
I was going to be extremely rude to him, and then I decided not to.
I think that was probably a good decision, because I mean, this is the thing with the art of the troll, is it's like once you're super rude, you've lost. You have to be rude and funny if you're going to be rude. You have to be funny, and so I think, or else you look worse.
But I don't think he was being funny.
No, but that's the point. Is by bringing humor in, you are showing that you're looking at this much more lighthearted than they are, and they're the fool because they're basically taking life too seriously and commenting on a website that many people use to masturbate to.
Right.
Reddit is like half porn site. I don't understand if people get this. It's like you got to have a little levity on there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, somebody took you very seriously too.
Exactly. Yes. I said postmodernist alert because they were talking about essentially subjective morality. And but in the context of like Locke and the natural law and stuff.
What's it called?
The social contract theory.
Social contract theory. Yeah.
I was being tongue in cheek though.
Of course.
So, yes, exactly.
I mean, what you said was silly.
Exactly. I was like, yeah. And part of it was they weren't really. I mean, granted, they weren't really being like. I don't think they were being mean. I can't even remember now though.
Yeah, they were being a little rude.
Yeah, so I guess that's why I did it, and but yeah, they did not like that.
But this is the thing. This is exactly it. It's like what is strange is that we post a perspective, and in every time I post, I ask, "What do you think?" I'm offering, I'm extending an invitation for people to give their opinion on it, and. Instead of giving their opinion on the topic, it seems like most people prefer to, I don't know, like strangely self-aggrandize or something. Like put me down for how little I know about something without providing any indication that they know anything about what they're talking about.
Or that they assume, that. Yeah. Yes. Yes, I agree. Yeah. No, it's. I mean, the internet's again. I mean, and so we. Dare I bring. You know who up?
Yeah. Well, just so everybody knows, we will be getting to the Bitcoin white paper, but
I'm wondering
you should bring
if I should put,
who up.
I think I'm wondering if I should put this at the end, though. This conversation.
Sure.
I don't know if this is annoying or not for us to start it and then not actually talk about the thing until.
I don't know, because I don't know if anybody
in.
cares about the thing. That's what I'm wondering.
About Bitcoin?
No, well, yes, that. No, I just mean the topic in general. Does anybody care about Nietzsche or C.S. Lewis? Really? I don't know.
People on TikTok apparently do.
Sure.
We've been getting engagement there. Nice. Very surprisingly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, Red Bar.
Yeah.
Ba-na-nun. Right. Who I like.
Just trying to get him to start yelling at us.
I do. I want him to yell at us. It will never happen. We're not popular or good.
Right.
But I mean,
you could win $100 right now.
Yeah, we should send this to him.
Yeah.
But like Howard Stern and people who kind of have humor, I guess, as their fundamental bedrock.
Right.
They're just trying to be funny. And I think that's what a lot of people miss with trolls, is that a lot of them are doing it because they think it's funny.
Right.
I think you just have to understand that. And so the only way to combat that is with the same kind of humorous detachment, I think.
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, that's all I'll say.
Right.
Yeah. Bitcoin. So yeah, we read we were talking last night. I called you and I was like, I've been trying to read C.S. Lewis and he's just saying the same stuff. So we'll switch to Bitcoin because we're going to try to actually do a little bit, a few episodes.
To defend C.S. Lewis, sort of, and also not. It's to kick him into the category with everybody else. A basic trend I've found with almost every book we've read is they start off interesting, and then the second half is just going back on all this first stuff that they said. Not every book, but many of the books we've read.
Yes.
Which is interesting, because a lot of movies have the same problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, everything could
and
probably
SNL
be...
sketches. Everything.
Oh, my God. Don't even get me started. Yeah, Jesus Christ. SNL is so redundant with their humor and the sketches.
They can cut everything down by 2/3.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, yeah, so we're probably going to do some crypto stuff in the future, too. So this will be kind of a start to that. Because, you're an anarchist. Right. And, I mean, you know a little bit about crypto, but I was saying how I feel like it is, if for an anarchist, it just makes sense to me that they would be into crypto because it is it's trying to achieve a lot of the aims. And one of the central, I think, things that keeps us connected like this is the fact that we have a centralized currency. So yeah, Bitcoin, reading the white paper was very interesting because while it was very technical, obviously. Well, I mean, it had technical aspects. It also did, it had an introduction. It was very well formatted like a scientific paper. So it had an introduction, like a little bit of a history, and like what Satoshi's conception of cryptocurrency and its need and everything like that, which is basically what I already said. Having a decentralized method of basically currency transaction, and also not needing a more trustworthy method of doing transactions was also sort of of
electronic transactions. I think it's specifically electronic transactions because
sorry, go ahead.
Physical exchange of currency does not present the problem of electronic exchange of currency. And so the point that Satoshi, keeps keeps or makes a couple times is that this is solving an electronic transaction problem that is not present in physical transactions.
So I did think they were making a more general point, but I don't know why I got that impression. Let me
So
see.
what I have is the basic perspectives. The overview is Bitcoin seeks to solve the issue of a lack of trust in financial institutions. It eliminates third-party acknowledgement from electronic currency transfer, makes transactions completely irreversible, which is part of eliminating the need for the trust of a third party, and it develops a public ledger which allows for transparent tracking of coins to see that they have not been double spent.
Mm-hmm. But it is also, I think, in a way, improving on, I guess you could say, quote, I don't want to say real, transactions, but physical, like not bit-based, right? Not computer-based transactions. In the fact that, well, I mean, yeah, you can always just barter with somebody. You've always been able to barter with somebody. But all the modern currencies have a mint, that's controlled by a central...
Right, but there isn't a problem if I have a dollar in my hand, a paper dollar. There isn't a problem of double spending it. You don't need a third party to acknowledge a transaction of a physical piece of currency.
Right, of course, and I think I'm glad you brought up because that was a big issue. Right, exactly. I guess the concise way of describing it is as the double spending problem.
Right,
of that you're spending the same thing twice.
Mm-hmm. So when I was reading it, I thought it might make sense to just kind of go through each section and see what the points are, and maybe there's some of the sections that you can help me understand a little bit more.
Maybe not, but how this is going.
Okay, so the introduction, it goes through just the basic premise that we were talking about. Is that internet commerce requires digital exchange of currency, and that digital exchange of currency traditionally has needed three parties. It's needed a buyer, it's needed a seller, and then it's needed a third party to acknowledge that yes, that money has indeed gone only once from buyer to seller. And the way I think to think about that would be like if you bank with Wells Fargo and you use a debit card, and you give $10 to Target to buy something, Wells Fargo acknowledges that, yes, you have indeed given that $10 to Target and nobody else.
Right. Right.
And so what Bitcoin is seeking to do is eliminate the need for that third party, because that third party requires trust in that third party. And, as we move forward in the world, trust in financial institutions socially is eroding. And so that's going to be an increasing problem. And so what Bitcoin is seeking to do is saying we don't need that third party at all. We can develop a system that will not even require trust. It will be inherent in that system that this is the only way possible to exchange money.
And I think that's a great point. In the basically second paragraph, what is needed is an electronic payment system based off cryptographic proof instead of trust. And so this is where the proof of work idea comes in. And
an interesting point in this introduction that I highlighted was he says the cost of mediation increases transaction costs. So the fact that there is a third party that has to acknowledge the transaction increases the cost of that transaction, limiting the minimal practical transaction size and cutting off the possibility for small casual transactions. And there is a broader cost in the loss of ability to make non-reversible payments for non-reversible services. So that point about non-reversible payments for non-reversible services is interesting to me. Because I guess I hadn't really thought of it in those terms, but I guess that is a problem. Like if I go and play a show somewhere, that is a non-reversible service. That's already happened. And the payment, an electronic payment through a financial institution, is a reversible payment. And so I have already lost my input, and so I take on all the risk as a seller instead of both sides equally maintaining risk in the operation.
Yes. No, I think I agree. That was something that kind of struck out to me as well.
So transactions, the second section is where I started to get a little bit confused. I think I figured out what hashes are. It took me a while because I don't know cryptography. I don't know the field.
Sure.
I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah, and I should say when just so listeners understand, when you're like, maybe you can help me understand, the only reason he's saying that is not because I'm a crypto expert, is just I think because I have a little bit more programming and computer experience.
A crypt expert, I think.
Yeah, I'm not a crypt expert though by any means, and so yes.
But yeah, you know more programming than I do. Yes.
Yeah,
and
but
you know
I mean,
more math. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but like, you know, hashing to my basic understanding is just you're taking something and converting it into something else with an equation in a very fundamental sense.
Like a function, right?
Yes, exactly.
That spits out like an encrypted, like a code or something that is representing the input, but in a new way that you can only decipher if you have the key to decipher it. So in the paper, to implement a distributed timestamp server on a peer-to-peer basis, we need to use a proof of work similar system to Adam Back's Hashcash. I don't know if you've read that.
No, but I found it interesting that they were referencing Usenet, which is like maybe the first social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. Rather than newspaper or Usenet posts, the proof of work involves scanning for a value that, when hashed, such as with the SHA-256, the hash begins with a number of 0 bits. And so this is where the scanning for a value. So that's where it sounds like you're putting in tons and tons of inputs, looking for something in particular to come out. What I don't understand is what this means. The hash begins with a number of 0 bits. The average work required is exponential in the number of 0 bits required and can be verified by executing a single hash. For our timestamp network, we implemented the proof of work by incrementing a nonce in the block until a value is found that gives the block's hash the required 0 bits. So I don't understand, 0 bits. So I don't understand what it means for the hash to have 0 bits.
There are zeros in the 0 bits in the hash, I think. What it means, like you have zeros.
Like there's some point within it that contains a 0, or the entire thing is 0.
I'm understanding that you have some number of 0 bits that are 0.
I see. Right. So
in the hash.
So, and then where it says, the reason I'm thinking that the nonce number is changing is because it says, for our timestamp network, we implement a proof of work by incrementing a nonce in the block until a value is found that gives the block's hash the required 0 bits. So maybe it isn't. Maybe it, like the number of zeros is different in different situations too.
So, like the Wikipedia says, miners group and broadcast new transactions into blocks, which are then verified by the network. Each block must contain a proof of work to be accepted, involving finding a nonce number. So again, this nonce number is arbitrary number, could be used just once in a cryptographic communication, often a random or pseudo-random number for authentication. So involving finding a nonce number that, combined with the block content. So the block content is the transactions.
Right.
So that's it. Mm-hmm. That's where the input's changing, is the nonce number. You already knew that, Is that you? Was
that's
that
what I
clear
was
to you?
understanding. Yes.
Okay, so I'm just slow. Sorry, but it just clicked for me.
Okay.
So you have the input that is stagnant are the transactions,
Right.
and then the nonce number is this thing that you're changing. You're running the SHA 256 algorithm, and then you're generating a hash that is of the same size every time. But
And you're trying to find some kind of target.
yes,
Yeah. Yes. That's my understanding.
great, we got there.
It's pretty weird. It's like a funny game. It's like a roulette.
No, it is.
It's like
Yeah.
a slot machine to me.
So it makes sense when you think of how the cryptographic industry arose from like these brilliant mathematicians who, I mean, one like interesting characteristic of all mathematicians is they love games. I feel like I see that in a lot of
Right.
really bright mathematically oriented minds.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is just like it's exactly that. I think you're right. It's like a game. So that's where the computations, when people say Bitcoin is like doing, math, and this is where the CPU power comes from. It's in implementing the SHA.
It's not even real. Yeah, it's implementing the SHA, but it's like just randomly trying inputs, or like it's incrementing by some process.
Right.
Another thing I read that was an interesting corollary, and the reason it's called mining, is because the theory is that to mine for gold, you need to expend energy and calories, and if you get lucky and you find gold, you just have gold, and so
Right.
it's just the sheer reward for the expenditure of calories.
Right.
You don't have to invent anything. It's that. And so on the crypto mining or the Bitcoin mining, it's that the computer, the CPU, is expending energy, like heat energy, electrical energy, and if it gets lucky and lands in the right spot, its expenditure of that energy is rewarded by getting Bitcoin.
Right. And mining for gold is kind of a random thing.
Right.
So
Yes.
I think that's awesome. It's a very cool idea. On that note about energy, it is associating it with the energy of the CPU, like you said, as opposed to just the IP address.
Yes.
Which is an important point that they said, because also that would be easier to game the system if it was just tied to IP instead of
Right.
CPU.
There's actual physical energy that has to be expended.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's a really cool idea. It's just making me think how it's like, there's that whole conspiracy theory that it's like invented by the CIA, right?
Yeah.
I just
And
feel like you would have to have a lot of really inside knowledge in order to make this, especially in 2008 when it's like you were essentially founding a new field.
Yeah.
You had to be somebody who really was on the bleeding edge of things, and I just can't imagine how one person could do that.
It's really like a deep dive long con game.
What?
If it is the CIA. Because like when we were in college, our buddy, he was into Bitcoin.
But
and I was like rolling my eyes like, that's ridiculous. It's the
Yeah,
silliest
yeah.
idea I've ever heard. And there were like 4 people in the world into Bitcoin. That's what I'm saying is like, it's really a long con. If this is the CIA's work, honestly, pretty good work.
Who was into it? He was into it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
When we
So
were in
is
college, he went to a bar. It was like, now that I think about it, it's awesome. He like bought a beer with Bitcoin in like what would that have been, like 2012?
Dude, shout out to him. I had no idea. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was into it, and he was telling me about it and stuff. And there was some like pop-up bar in Madison that was selling beers for Bitcoin.
So is he just a millionaire now? I mean,
I don't know. Actually, I haven't talked to him in
we
a
should
couple years. But, yeah.
Maybe he isn't. I don't know. Who knows? Wow. Should I bleep his name? I'll bleep his name.
Okay, sure.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, putting that kind of information out there anyway. Because you never know.
Is it bad information?
saying that some people don't want you to know that they have money if they do.
I see. I mean, that's fair. I don't know if he has any anymore. Maybe he spent it all on that beer.
That was a $55,000 beer. I guess $63,000 beer. That's the most expensive beer he's ever bought.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should get him on the podcast.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard sell. No, he won't do it.
Because you've asked him to be on past ones? Okay.
Yeah.
He's always looking at my Instagram story. I see you in there, just so you know.
I mean, I get it. I think that his job, he has to be careful about making political public statements.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't even mean about getting, like, that kind of stuff. Be interesting to talk to him about Bitcoin. If you've been in the game for so long. Yeah. Yeah, dude,
I haven't talked to him about it since college. He could have gotten out of the game. Who knows?
He could have, yeah. That's very interesting. Anyway, yeah. So one of the striking things in this was, well, first off, how simple it is explained. Like, I read this and I felt like I understood it. Mm-hmm. And then obviously I'm trying to explain it and I'm having a harder time, so I didn't really understand it as well as I thought. But it read easily in my head, which was kind of striking. It was kind of interesting how it could, in theory, be gamed. It would just be difficult to, but it could be gamed if you, as he said, figure out a way to hijack most of the CPU work of the system.
Right.
Then it could be gamed.
Right.
I guess the question is if that would ever be possible, and I guess a developer would be like, that's never going to happen because, you have so many.
So there was a fight like a year and a half ago between Elon Musk and Guy Swan about this, because Elon Musk was saying that somebody could essentially buy up all the Bitcoin mining computers. And Guy Swan was saying that actually there have been organizations that have tried to like overrun all the CPU, take up all of it. And he was saying it's too distributed a network, and all of the sort of pro-anarcho Bitcoin people just started like going whole hog, and it didn't work.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a great point. And I think this is another big point that Satoshi points out in here. Can I use the word point another time? I've used it so many times. Is that sorry, I had I'm going to cut this out too. I had a energy drink. I had a Monster, and I feel like I'm just scattered. I just don't think my brain is cooking well because I lost my train of thought. Oh my God. Satoshi thought about this. What were we just talking about?
Hijacking all the CPU.
Yeah. Oh, the idea that as you go on the network, it gets harder to game.
Yes.
Like it. So to
the longer it's been, the more blocks that have been added.
Mm-hmm. It gets harder to catch up or game the system. And to this point, it's not explicitly said in here, but part of that is because the system is so distributed, it will only become more distributed. Mm-hmm. And as that happens, it becomes harder to monopolize, which is why an oligarchy is so difficult to take down.
Right. There's also an incentive structure problem, which I actually thought was a very powerful point. It's section 6, when he's talking about the incentive of a greedy attacker, that is what they're called in the white paper, trying to assemble more CPU power than all the honest nodes. So at the end of this section, he says the incentive may help encourage nodes to stay honest. If a greedy attacker is able to assemble more CPU power than all the honest nodes, he would have to choose between using it to defraud people by stealing back his payments or using it to generate new coins, which is essentially an honest use of the CPU power.
Mm-hmm.
So either he could just take back what he'd already lost and, gain a little bit,
Right.
or he could just mine like normal. And so it's not a huge incentive. You're not gaining the world by doing this.
Right. And also, you devalue it if you take it over because then less people are using
Exactly.
it.
So, because it ends by saying he ought to find it more profitable to play by the rules, such rules that favor him with more new coins than everyone else combined, than to undermine the system and the validity of his own wealth.
Right. Now, this section 7, the reclaiming disk space, I will say, was in detail confusing. I think from broad looking at it, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where it talks about the Merkle tree,
Yes.
the Angela Merkel tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Named after the great Roman emperor.
Yeah.
Merkel.
Yeah. Tell that to that Latin teacher. You think they'll get it? They'll be like, I can't believe you'd say such an ignorant statement. You're obviously not an academic. That person said you're obviously not an academic to me.
Yeah, I know. Well, there was that one time where they said that obviously we're not musicians either.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. It's crazy how these people just read us like books.
Dude, we suck. Okay, so hash in a Merkle tree with only the root included in the block's hash. So this is how you're saving on disk space, though. Because I was thinking this. I was like, okay, so the idea is that you are keeping a ledger of all the transactions.
Yeah.
So isn't that going to kind of add up after a while?
Right.
And so this is how you get it from not doing this. And this is the method of it's using a Merkle tree, or at least it was. And we'll get to that. But I wanted to talk about some of the changes that have occurred since this, because a lot of changes have happened.
Like
with
Lightning
Bitcoin.
and Taproot and all that stuff.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if getting into the details of how the hash algorithm works is interesting, but the point is that you're using a method to truncate it so that you can essentially work your way back, but you're not actively storing it all. Mm-hmm. Right? That's essentially it, right? Yeah.
But that's like, I feel
Obvious.
like it's a common programming technique.
Exactly. I was going to say that, yeah. I was going to say that.
Sorry. Please say it, please.
It's a common programming technique.
Oh, good point.
I need to pull my weight in this episode somehow. You're over here saying everything correctly.
Not quite, but
Almost. Okay. Yeah. So, the privacy. So the privacy is one of the things I feel like that is changing. Oh, sorry. I'm jumping around. Part of it's because I didn't know how long you wanted to go. But if you want to, I don't know if you want to cover other sections before I jump to the
just go for it.
10th. So privacy is interesting because I mean this is getting at Taproot and stuff. So I was reading a website about this. I was also reading Reddit because why not?
Right.
Where was the good website? Anybody find me?
I wonder if
somebody
just that
to
is enough to get us flagged on YouTube.
love. Okay. So, yeah,
Is it in the right
SegWit.
key is the real question.
Who knows? Probably not. So, SegWit
Right.
was the first thing. So, this is on CryptoTimes.io.
Nice.
The
I like
3
IOs.
Bitcoin code upgrades that changed the currency forever, published on May 6th, 2024. no person is listed as the author. This is a group collaboration.
Love it.
Between the people at Crypto Times. Do you want me to get to it, Antushka?
Yeah.
Okay. Segregated Witness is the first one. So this was, I guess, 2017, and this was to solve long-standing issue of transaction malleability, while also increasing the block size. So I guess the benefits of this is that it's this is one thing, is, making it compatible with all the old software. But yeah, I guess effectively the important point that it did was it reduced the size of each transactions to allow more to be included in the blocks. And then you had Schnorr signatures, which I was reading about Klaus Schnorr, who was a crypto guy, or he was a cryptographic guy. He wasn't a crypto guy. He was the OG crypto guy.
Right.
That's what they called graphographers.
Graphographers. Schwan. Yeah.
Hey, you academics out there, I'm obviously being serious here. Okay, so allows multiple signature inputs to be aggregated into a single signature. So this also reduces the size of transactions. So my understanding, though, that was SegWit. Oh, yeah. Schnorr signatures were part of the Taproot part. So did you read about Taproot? Do you want to talk about Taproot?
No. I don't know enough to talk about it. I believe it's a protocol added onto the Bitcoin framework.
Yeah, it's a new scripting language.
Right.
So I guess this is what enabled, like, the NFTs to be made on the blockchain. It's a complex smart contracts.
Right.
So it can represent a bunch of things as a single public key. And I guess it also reduces their visibility. So this is going to be my point, is that it seems like, from reading all about these main things, a lot of the big changes to Bitcoin have been trying to improve the anonymity of it, which I think is cool and sort of makes sense. That
I think it's the anonymity. There's the Lightning Network, which is trying to improve, as I understand it, trying to improve efficiency of transaction, so bring transaction fees down.
Yeah. Well, that was another interesting thing about Bitcoin, though, is that it was still assuming that you'd have transaction fees. For some reason, I thought that a goal should be to not have transaction fees, because, like, getting back to the idea that what's happening in a 1v1 transaction in real life, there's no fee to do that transaction, other than, I guess, energy.
Well, there is an argument, yes. So
energy to get to the place and stuff like that.
So there's an argument that fiat currency has the highest transaction fee of any possible type of currency, and that Bitcoin has the lowest, is the easiest global currency with the lowest transaction fee possible. Not that it shouldn't have transaction fees, but the transaction fees themselves are what enable Bitcoin mining and enable the nodes to verify the transaction. So you do want the transaction fees, but you don't want transaction fees as high as fiat currency.
Right, and exactly, and I guess to sort of counter exactly what I was just saying before, is that there is a bit of a transaction fee in real life. There's energy expended to get to the place to do the transaction and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Also, any electronic transaction has a third-party verifier, which is going to be a very expensive transaction fee.
Right. So that makes sense. And that's the whole idea, that after all the Bitcoins have been mined, then people can still make money off of transaction.
Right.
Or that is right? I
believe so, yeah.
That's how you understand it, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. It ended with a calculation, this is of showing how difficult it would be to game.
Yep.
And it is the the gambler's ruin problem. Supposing a gambler with unlimited credit starts at a deficit and plays potentially in an infinite number of trials to try to reach break even. They're basically using this model to determine the probability that a person could guess, I guess, the correct node, the longest node,
Right.
and catch up
to get their Bitcoin back.
Because the idea is you could, to cheat a transaction by tricking the other nodes
Yes.
into thinking that you have the most up-to-date node.
Right.
And to do that, you would need to clone it. You would need to guess the exact hash
Immediately.
sequence.
Or very quickly.
Well, quickly, yeah, very quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, I mean, the crux of it is that it gets exponentially more difficult as the attacker gets more and more behind
Right.
the nodes. So, probably not going to happen.
I feel like in most cases, if we're talking about normal people exchanging small amounts of Bitcoin, the amount of CPU that it would take might be a higher electric bill than the amount of Bitcoin you're exchanging anyway.
Yes, yeah, I mean, that's
Maybe.
a great point.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
probably not with huge amounts of money, but
No, you're right. I think you're right, though. I mean, it would be ridiculous to
because you'd
to
need
do
your
that.
computer like going for it, or many computers going for it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, you would only want to even try to do this if it was a tremendous amount of money,
Right.
or else it wouldn't even be worth it.
So I think talking about Section 2 is worthwhile because it's kind of addressing what is a Bitcoin technically.
Sure.
Because I think there's a lot of confusion about that. And I remember I was talking at one point with somebody who thought that a Bitcoin was actually a coin, and it's all this digital stuff. And you know how there's those like Bitcoin coins you can buy for fun.
Mm-hmm.
They thought that was the real coin, and that's what it was like backed by or something. Like
Did you
that.
call him an idiot in Reddit fashion?
Yeah. I mean, I said that obviously they hadn't read enough, and their thinking was erroneous. And if only they'd read this book, then that would disabuse them of such felonious thoughts. But
Yeah.
I did say that. Yes.
Yes,
It's
I knew
important
it.
to do.
Yeah,
but
it's good. Yeah, you have to shame people.
yeah, you have to.
There's not enough shame in this world, Count Sarnit.
You're like good. That's what you have to do. Called tough love.
Yeah, damn right. Okay, so
Yeah, so-
no, I think that's a good point, though. Yeah, focusing on this.
So Section 2, it starts, we define an electronic coin as a chain of digital signatures. And what I think is interesting about that is actually it brings to mind the idea of a dollar. Because,
Oh boy, here we go. No,
What?
I'm just joking.
Well, because a dollar is like a receipt, not now, but it used to be a receipt for an amount of gold, a dollar's worth of gold. And the idea is that paper money was a way of one person signing off that I agree that this person has worked this amount of gold for me. And then they could take that dollar into a bank and be like, I would like some gold, please. And so it's not digital, but it is kind of a signature. It's a receipt. And so I think what's interesting is that is kind of holding up the baseline idea of what a coin, what a piece of money is a receipt for some amount of value.
Right,
and
between two people.
Exactly. Right. Because the coin itself, the chain of digital signatures, is one owner signing it over to another owner, and then a verification on a public ledger that coin has indeed been signed over. And then a whole chain of those things.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I was looking at, they have a nice figure. They even have figures in this.
Yes.
Yeah, you know how hard figures were to make in 2008? Only the CIA could make figures.
Yeah. This. It's got CIA written all over it.
I was just thinking, yeah, I was in driver's ed in 2008. Well, no, I was in junior year of high school.
Nice.
It's a young pup.
Yeah. So, is this the way out?
Is this the way out?
So, basically where I am, because we've been talking about crypto off the podcast a little bit, I kind of am off all the other coins. I don't really care. I sort of played around a little bit, and I had some Ethereum. I think that the biggest arguments against Ethereum have convinced me that it's not a good... It might be a good way to make money in the short term, but it's not a good currency. It's no better than $1.
Shots fired.
Yeah, right. So to me, my purpose, what I find powerful about Bitcoin, is that it feels like if it isn't a CIA psyop, like that set aside.
Yeah.
If it's not that, hopefully not.
Knock on wood.
If it's not that, it is a very difficult system to game, not 100% ungameable, but is potentially a way for individuals to take back their ability to engage in commerce at the anarchic level with each other without any interference from a government, because it isn't controllable or regulatable. And that's the thing, is like, I think it isn't really regulatable. Even if somebody has all the Bitcoin, then they destroy the whole system.
Yes, and yes, and technically also, like, I mean, I think it is kind of easy to figure out who. Well, it's not. Like, it's hard to figure out who a wallet belongs to.
Right.
You know, so in that sense, it is anonymized.
Right.
Is that the right way to say that?
I don't know.
Anonymized.
Probably that's it.
It's also atomized.
Right.
But yeah, you know, like, so that's adds to the anarchic aspect and unregulability aspect to it, I would think.
Yes.
But yeah, is it the way out? I mean, it's a good question. I don't know. So I was trying to actually think, this is related to thinking about what to read for next week, because I wanted to stay on the crypto thing, and it's the question of, do we just read about like proof of stake, because that's the other big way that cryptos do their transactions, or is it, or should we just read about another coin? And kind of on this idea of anonymous stuff, I mean, this is where it might be interesting to read about Monero, because that's, you know, supposedly the most anonymous way. And so I think if you're talking from a truly anarchic standpoint, probably that's the most anarchic of them.
Right.
Which also makes it kind of the, like, known as like kind of the, I think of it as the bad boy coin of the crypto, because it's like, you know, when, you know, people used to maybe do transactions on like the Silk Road with Bitcoin and stuff. But now I feel all the seedy stuff that they would do there, I feel like they would do it with Monero now, is kind of the idea.
Well, that's great. I'm all for that. That's, you know, it's this thing that people...
Clip it!
People say that... Like, I used to argue with people that, you know, they'd say that Bitcoin's just for doing illegal things. And my answer is yes, absolutely. It's for doing whatever. It's that it's none of your business and you can't track it. It doesn't matter what it's for.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of does.
Well, I mean, I guess. But so the first reference in this paper is a little essay called "Be Money" by W. Dye. I don't know what W stands for, but it links to it, and W. Dye references another paper called "Crypto Anarchy," which could be interesting to read, by Tim May. But just the introduction to this Be Money paper is interesting. They say, "I'm fascinated by Tim May's crypto anarchy. Unlike the communities traditionally associated with the word anarchy. In crypto anarchy, the government is not temporarily destroyed, but permanently forbidden and impotent, or no, permanently forbidden and permanently unnecessary. I love it. I'm so in. It is a community where the threat of violence is impotent because violence is impossible, and violence is impossible because its participants cannot be linked to their true names or physical locations. Until now, it's not clear, even theoretically, how such a community could operate. A community is defined by the cooperation of its participants, and efficient cooperation requires a medium of exchange, i.e. money, and a way to enforce contracts. Traditionally, these services have been provided by the government or government-sponsored institutions, and only to legal entities. In this article, I describe a protocol by which these services can be provided to and by untraceable entities. So this is before the Bitcoin white paper. This is what the Bitcoin white paper is citing as its first citation.
Yeah, that's...
and I think that
yeah.
To me, this is it, and to me, this is what everybody is missing, or not everybody is missing. But like, I've had arguments with people who say that crypto and Bitcoin are Ponzi schemes, and they're scams and things like that, or that, you know, it's just not a stable enough asset. It's not any of this stuff. And to me, it's just that whole line of thinking is missing the power of it. And I think that there's like a day trading penny stocks thing you can do with altcoins and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that that's worthless. It's worth something. But that's not the power of the system. The power of the system is that it is anarchic and unregulatable and untraceable.
Right. No, I actually think that's a really good idea to read. I think that sounds really interesting. Who is W. Dye, I wonder?
I don't know.
This
is an interesting podcast. We just look everything up.
We look everything up. Yes.
Chinese computer engineer known for contributions to cryptography and cryptocurrencies. He developed the Crypto++ cryptographic library, created the B-Money cryptocurrency system, and co-sponsored the VMAC message authentication algorithm.
Oh, interesting. VMAC I'm familiar with.
Nice.
Wei Dai.
Yeah.
Okay. Is he still alive?
I don't know. I stopped reading.
You stopped reading? Or is it Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Isn't
I can pull it back up. I just think it's boring.
You closed it already. I thought you still had it open. No, it's fine. It's
it doesn't say. It doesn't say. It doesn't say.
That's exactly what an anarchist would want.
Yep. Good.
Okay, cool.
But that was written in 1998.
I know.
Yeah, B-Money.
You were just dicking around back then. What were you doing? You weren't doing anything.
I was playing probably like Warcraft 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I was playing StarCraft.
Yeah, that one. Yep. I played that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to cover in this? So, I mean, again, I thought it was a good idea to read this just because, yeah, I mean, you and I have, like you said, both talked about how off air it doesn't feel like crypto's going to go away in any sense. I mean, some type of iteration, and likely Bitcoin, but definitely some form of crypto is going to be here as long as computers are here, at least. Mm-hmm. So learning more about it, I think, is good. I mean, yeah, and obviously you and I are both invested, but I do like to play around with altcoins. But we won't talk about that here. This is not financial advice, damn it. It's certainly not from me.
My advice is just screw the system. It's not financial advice. I just think it's bad.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm well aware. You're wearing that hat again. That's funny.
Yeah.
Did you do that gig again today?
What? No. I just my hair's too long. And I need a haircut, and so if I haven't taken a shower, it looks really bad. And so a hat helps.
Yeah, oh, man, you're preaching to the choir here, brother. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Overall, Satoshi, nice work.
Or CIA, nice work.
Or CIA, also kudos.
Yeah, nice job, fellas, ladies.
Very nice. Yes. Ladies, yes, fellas. They, thems.
Whatever. Good job. Nice diagrams.
What are you going to post on Reddit about this one?
I'm hoping you leave a lot of the silence in, so I can just post like a John Cage style clip.
That would be funny.
Just silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. What am I going to post on Reddit? I have some ideas. I think probably my point that I just made, that the power of it is true anarchy.
Yeah.
And people will get really mad at me. It'll be great.
I don't know. I wonder. Yeah, it'll be a good question. Well,
It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Here's my prediction. It'll be a lot of there has always been, there always will be arguments. Mm-hmm. Like the invalidating of the entire point.
Mm-hmm. And why would you even ask a question? Yeah, I don't know. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
goodbye,
Bye.
folks.